What is the dumbest thing your parents have ever gotten mad at you for? Story 1. My South Asian mom was furious when she found me texting a boy from school. She gave me this whole lecture about how this is against our values. I'm not allowed to date, etc. The second I protest this is just a friend, I'm not interested in him at all. She immediately does a 180 and goes, well, why not? Are you gay? That stuff freaking gave me whiplash trying to keep up. A couple of my friends and I still ask each other, are you gay, when someone thinks some guy is hot, but someone else doesn't. My parents are really, really devout Christians. Growing up, my mom absolutely hated when I got close to girls. She would constantly pester me about spending any amount of time with girls that I was friends with, even in groups. She was so paranoid about me having a girlfriend that I ended up not even trying to date at all during high school. During my senior year, she sat me down because she wanted to have a serious talk and proceeded to ask me if maybe I had feelings for other guys, since I was 17 and hadn't had a girlfriend. I was like, for freaking real? Edit. Geez, I didn't expect so many people to see this. To answer the questions about how things ended up, I replied to my mom's serious talk by expressing how ridiculous I thought the question was after how much stuff she'd given me about liking girls. Things came to a head when I got into a fight with my parents because I wanted to go on a road trip with 4 friends, 2 of which were girls. I went anyway, against my mom's wishes, and after being away from them for a couple of weeks, realized how toxic the family was. So I just didn't come home. I moved in with my grandparents and stayed there for a couple of years, until I could move out on my own. That was a really difficult time, and my mom and I were really bitter towards each other. Mom, you're dong blocking me, and you need to stop. Story 2. My mom once got insanely mad that I wasn't home without telling her. I was around 18 at the time. She got so mad, she repeatedly called me and texted angry messages and went on a rampage around the house. I was upstairs in my room, sleeping the entire time, and didn't wake up until a few hours later to her messages and my stuff all tossed around. Kinda hard to explain, I was upstairs the entire time and didn't hear anything. Oh, I have a fun one. I lived in a dorm my freshman year, roughly an hour away from my parents. I visited home one weekend and drove home Sunday afternoon, around 2 p.m. I texted my mom that I had arrived. She responded. Like any other college student, my sleep schedule was totally messed up, and I decided to have a bit of a catch-up, so I laid down for a nap. I said hi to a few friends in the dorm before this. Well, apparently 15 minutes after my mother confirmed that I had parked in a lot not 50 yards from my dorm in broad daylight on our safe college campus, she texted me to see if I had made it into the building. I didn't respond because I had plugged my phone in and gone to sleep. She absolutely freaked out. By the time I woke up 3 hours later, I had over 100 text messages, 25 missed calls, 3 voicemails. The last text just said, "We're coming." Yes, she and my enabler sister were in the car barreling down the interstate to find me. After messaging multiple friends and at least one of them saying, "Yeah, I saw her come in. She said she was going to nap." That wasn't enough. I must be unalive. I must be AR'd, kidnapped, red-rummed. That was the only option. She was so mad at me, screaming hysterically, sobbing. How could I have worried her so much? And that's how I stopped responding to my mother's texts. She lost the ability to reason, so I cut the cord. Story 3. Me and my dad were talking about something, I can't remember what, and for some reason the names of Obama's daughters came up. I could remember one, Sasha, but not the other. So when we'd finished chatting, I looked it up. Next time the conversation went that way, a day or so later, I said Sasha and Malia, and his face just dropped. "Did you look that up?" he asked. Yeah, why? Well, he was outraged at the idea. It was like he took personal offense at the idea that someone who didn't know something might go out of their way to learn it for no reason other than to know it. His logic seemed to be that only the stuff he already knows is important. Because if it was important and he didn't know it, he'd have looked it up already. So anything he doesn't know is obviously pointless and dumb. He's not fun when it comes to Trivial Pursuit. "Steve, you know I only read books I've already read." My dad does this too, though. He's literally said before, Well, if I haven't learned it by now, it's obviously not that important. Dad, the world is always changing, and learning stuff like new routes to work, advancements in science, or even upgrading the skills you already have isn't an insult to what you've already learned. It's just building on your already present knowledge. I wonder if it's a generational thing. I would guess it might be a coping mechanism for people who are feeling like they've been aging a lot lately and they just don't want to recognize that they're getting old. The world keeps spinning and doesn't slow down just because you are. You either have to get with it or get left behind. But rather than admit this and know that the world is continuing to evolve as they start their decline in their golden years, it's easier to just put up a front and decide to dismiss all the advancements as irrelevant so that they can go on their merry way living in the past. I'm always grateful when I meet elderly people who've kept up with the changing times without resisting, and they are much easier to get along with. Story 4. Breaking my foot at like 12 or 13. My mom thought I was faking it to miss school and stomped on my broken foot and hit it with a broom. Funny thing, I heard my foot crack and called her right when it happened, and from her tone, I got scared and dragged my foot to school that afternoon. It got swollen after 2 minutes, so every step hurt and was worse on the trip back. But, turns out the x-ray showed I was right. She also blames a friend of mine and says he pushed me at school for my foot to break, but I called her 5 minutes after I left home when it happened. Still haven't heard a sorry. Hey, this happened to my little brother. He broke his leg riding a bike, but it didn't swell that much, and he's a tough little guy, so my dad thought it wasn't that bad, and he made him try to walk it off. Doctor said little brother was the first kid he's had that smiled when he was told he had a broken leg. I broke my foot in 5th grade. Teacher did not believe me. Had to stay the rest of the day. Dad did not believe me. Made me mow the lawn. Mother just about killed both of them. Story 5. Back in the early days of Facebook, when I was about 15, I left my profile up on the family computer one night. The next morning, my mom, who was still wary on the whole social media thing, opens the computer and sees my profile. When I finally wake up a while later, I come downstairs to her ticked off as heck and saying that I had a picture of myself drinking beer with a friend as my profile picture, along with the whole "you'll never get a job because of this" thing. I calmly point out to her that the picture is of my friend and I drinking hot chocolate at the ski lodge from our vacation last year, and that she was the one who took that picture. Parents and Facebook are a goddamn nightmare. I posted the link to a Nirvana song along with some lyrics once, and my aunt saw it, made a huge deal about me being depressed and a bully online. Song was heart-shaped box, by the way. So my mom, without even talking to me about it, first deleted my account and had a massive freak out over it. She did this like 4 times with my Facebook accounts because she'd randomly get a stick up the butt about me sharing music, movie quotes, or pictures. Story 6. I was under the deck looking for our cat. There was a dirt ramp that opened wide at the bottom, and the cat sprinted up there, and I was trying to get him out. He disappeared, going too deep. I come out from under the deck, and my dad pulled in the driveway. "What were you doing?" "Looking for the cat." "That's stupid. What were you really doing? Don't lie." The cat just... Seriously, if you don't tell me what you were doing, you're going to be grounded." The cat... Grounded 2 weeks. I mentioned this many, many years later, and he had no recollection whatsoever. "I was just playing with the cat, darn it." Broke a window on the house with a wiffle ball. Dad came home and said, "Why were you hitting rocks at the window?" I said I wasn't. We were playing wiffle ball, and it hit and broke the window. He said, "You can't break a window with a wiffle ball." He picked up the bat and the ball, hit it at the window, and broke it. Never wanted to laugh so hard in my life, but was too scared to. He just said, "I guess you can," and walked away. At least he admitted he was wrong. Kinda. Story 7. I used to have all these crazy rules. I didn't have a cell phone because my mom was worried I would text boys, but whenever I was out with my friends, I had to call by 5 o'clock, no matter what. And if I forgot or wasn't with a friend that had a cell phone, I was screwed. I started working at a smoothie place after school my sophomore and junior year of high school. I decided to quit for my senior year to focus on graduating and hanging with my friends, and my mom was furious at me. My mom would pick me up from hanging out with my friends, and for about 6 months, she'd smell my fingers randomly to see if I was smoking weed or cigarettes, and sometimes ask if I was pregnant. She'd also check my movie tickets and ask me about the movie I saw to make sure we weren't sneaking into different theaters. She always said she was hard on me because I can get pregnant. And now she asks for grandkids every other day. So, when are you going to give me a few grandkids? My uterus is terrified of you. Story 8. Playing video games. Somehow watching TV for 3 hours was okay, but playing a game for the same amount of time was a horrible addiction. I'm 30 now, and thinking back on this still makes me angry. Not to mention, they ignored the hell I went through as a teenager and said everything wrong with me was from video games. Yes, I had a literal brick thrown at me from a car and was also treated like garbage by so many people for no reason at all was not why I was so upset. It was video games. Their logic made no sense. What's even weirder is that they were the same people who bought me video games. My parents were like that with magic. Magic was evil. Any computer game or card game that involved magic was forbidden in my house. They destroyed so many of my games, along with 2 boxes worth of Magic the Gathering cards. Thing is, as a little kid, my mom would always read me the Magic Faraway Tree series, and my dad encouraged me to read the Chronicles of Narnia and the Lord of the Rings. Story 9. My dad got all ticky when I asked to see a therapist for depression, like it was a personal failing, and I chose to have it. Well, that was fun. I had a teacher in high school who, in retrospect, saw that I was depressed and tried to get me help, but even I didn't know I was depressed. So when I talked to my counselor, we were both like, "So, why are we talking?" I figured it out, and when I was out of the house and on my own insurance, luckily I didn't have to ask my dad to see a therapist. I imagine I would have gotten the same response from him that you got. When I mentioned, as an adult, my depression, he said, "What do you have to be depressed about?" My dad brought up my depression randomly on the way to the store because I guess my mom told him about it. His wise words? "Why don't you think about all the people who have it worse than you?" Thanks, Dad. Now I have depression and I feel guilty. Story 10. My mom complained I wore jeans too much and never wore nice pants. So I started wearing nice pants since her complaining constantly isn't worth dealing with. A week later, she asked me why I never wore jeans and if they didn't fit. She got really angry when I explained why. What the frick? I'm just blown away by all the comments I've read this far. This one in particular made me stop and share my frustration. The lack of logic and justice on these stories really ticks me off. I'd be so mad if these kinds of things had happened to me. I mean, my parents are not perfect and may sometimes overreact, but come on, some logic and common sense would be good. Lots of these are focused on parents contradicting themselves, then getting upset when they get called out on it. It's important to remember that anger is often a mask for other feelings, like shame or embarrassment. Story 11. My dad thought me and my friends were spraying Pepsi on the roof of the bathroom. I was like 14 and seriously dumbfounded by how stupid he thought I was. Turns out the crappy contractor he hired didn't put a sealant on when he painted the roof. I don't know, man. One of my roommates in college managed to get wine stains on the ceiling. Weirder things have happened. Wine stains on the ceiling isn't that hard, and this is exactly how it goes. Move into a new place, get everything unpacked, and settle in for your first night. Grab a bottle of wine. Can't find a corkscrew? Grab a screwdriver to punch the cork into the bottle. Wine erupts like a geyser. This has happened to 3 different people that I know, myself included. Story 12. Refusing to clean my older brother's room. I actually got thrown out of the house for the day, which was great because I hung out with a dog, and my dad sneaked me food. Overall, a good day, except for my mom being extremely angry at me for no reason. Why should you be held responsible for cleaning your brother's room? Maybe OP is a she? I know my mom growing up was expected to make her brother's beds every morning and do the woman's work on weekends. Cleaning the living room, bedrooms, and hallway was her job. Her brother had to do men's work, which was helping her dad with gardening for about 6 minutes and then watching football for the rest of the day. Story 13. I was grounded when I was 16 because I was mistaken for being a robber in my ex-boyfriend's neighborhood. Some old person tipped them off, saying they thought they saw me leap a 10-foot wall. I'm 5'2", so this is highly improbable. Before I knew it, there were 6 cop cars following me, and when they stopped to investigate my car, they asked me, "Did you happen to jump a 10-foot wall and steal some stuff from this house? Do you have any weapons, TVs, couches, whatever, in your car?" All I had was a bunch of paintings and art supplies in my back seat. Dumbest night of my life. Like, what the frick? Story 14. Not getting out of the house, and for going out too much. Oh, I love the paradoxical ones. Those are the best. Don't play so many video games. If you sit in front of that screen too long, your eyes will go square. If you're bored, come watch TV with me and your dad instead. My monitor is usually set to some 15% of the TV in my parents' house. Going from a cozy monitor with flux to a sheer ungodly Ark of the Covenant eye flare of blue light is so uncomfortable, I have to sometimes look away from the pain. But I still got square eyes, yo. Story 15. I had a little mesh bag full of laundry scent booster crystal thingies in my sock drawer to keep my socks smelling fresh. My mom went through all my stuff one day because she was angry at me, found it, and accused me of smoking meth. She didn't let me leave the house for a month, despite me showing her the bottle of scent crystals that she bought sitting in our laundry room and offering numerous times to take a full drug panel. She said I was lying. She knew she was wrong and didn't want to embarrass herself. Cruel. This story angers me. Story 16. I used to get in massive trouble for bringing negative energy with the look on my face. I'm not frowning, it's just my face. Imagine being so ugly you get hit for it. Dang, man. My childhood in a nutshell. Get that look off of your face. What look? Confused. Smack. My stepmother was fond of the "don't talk back to me" when I tried to defend myself of something she accused me of that I didn't do. For example, "What have you done with my car keys?" "Ma, I didn't touch them, they're right there. Don't talk back to me." Smack. Story 17. For spending my paper route money. I wasn't the one who spent it, my mom was. But when the newspaper told them I didn't turn in their portion of the money, my mom got mad at me and acted like I was the one who had done it. Then made me get another job to pay back the paper for the money she'd kept. But she kept that money too. That's how my parents were. Oh wow, your mom was a piece of doo-doo. She sure is. Of course, when you're a kid, there's little you can do about it. Story 18. Not me, but a friend of mine was at home alone for the day and needed clean clothes. So he washed and dried his clothes. When his mom got home and found out, she flipped her lid and grounded him for a week. Sounds like someone is trying to make sure their children need them forever. My kid is 2, and I have her help me do laundry so she can learn. He moved out before even graduating high school and doesn't see her anymore. Sadly, I don't think he's done anything productive with his life since. Story 19. Went out drinking one night and decided I was too drunk to drive, so I called a sober friend to take my truck home for me. Sober friend ended up getting hit by a drunk driver, and my truck got totaled. I got yelled at for being irresponsible. Was your friend okay? He got kind of banged up from it, but was generally okay after. Could have been so much worse though, and came very close to being a lot worse. But my parents didn't even ask once if everyone was okay or not. Story 20. Mom, do the dishes. Me. Okay. Starts doing dishes. Mom, 5 minutes later, vacuum the living room. Me. I will as soon as I'm done with the dishes. Mom, angry. No, you'll do it now. When I tell you to do something, I expect you to do it as soon as I tell you. Me. Yes, ma'am. Leaves dishes to go vacuum. Mom, 10 minutes later. Why aren't these dishes done yet? When I tell you to do something, you better finish it before you go do something else. Grounds me. Me. Screams. Story 21. My dad asked me to repeat what my mom had said in a heated argument when I was young, so I repeated verbatim exactly what she said, which included the F word. I can't say it here, that's a naughty word. Old man popped me so hard in the mouth, I fell off the dining room chair. I'm still confused about the logic there, 15 years later. Why was he asking you to repeat what she said? I'm guessing so he'd have someone to pop in the mouth that wouldn't fight back or call the cops on him. Story 22. My dad brought some fancy cheese that we both liked. When he came to eat some, he couldn't find it and blamed me. It was found in the freezer a few days later, where he put it, and no apologies were given. It drives me nuts when parents won't apologize to their children. I hate how they think it'll undermine their authority if they apologize, when really it just breeds resentment and robs the kid of a lesson in accountability. Story 23. Sleeping too much. I had the flu. Well, you really could have cleaned the house since you didn't go to school that day. My mom was like this. I'd gotten sent home sick from work one day and stayed home the next, and the day I stayed home, she tried giving me a list of stuff she wanted me to do while she was at work. I had to remind her I was staying home because I was sick. Story 24. For failing my Spanish class, when I had a 97 in it. This one brings back a few sad memories. 98% on a test, highest grade in the class, out on my desk for parent night. Well, what did you do wrong? Why isn't that 100%? Cue learning to never give actual grade numbers, just a letter grade. And now, unironically, my mom got mad at me for getting an 18 out of 20 on my first chem quiz in college. Story 25. Responding to them asking a question and then getting yelled at for talking back. My favorite lesson was that responding while showing any emotion was copping an attitude, and responding while remaining calm was acting superior. You might think keeping one's mouth shut would be the favorite alternative, but nope, sigh. Or when you happen to disagree with a parent on something and they yell at you for contradicting them. Story 26. I was an accident and was pretty much the cause of my family becoming broken due to financial instability and divorce when I was 7. So pretty much anything they can make an excuse for. No, they chose to have you, then messed up their own financials. They were idiots and shifted the blame on you when they were in the wrong for their own mess-ups. Story 27. My dad got mad at me for not putting up with his alcoholic rants. Man, my dad was the same way when I was a kid. But instead of getting yelled at for not putting up with it, I got yelled at because mom would yell at him to stop yelling at me, and it was my fault somehow. Story 28. I remember getting yelled at a lot for not being hungry. Why the heck was it such a bad thing, around age 8 to 10, to have a small appetite? Oh, and my father would get furious when I got sick. This one I understand a little more, as 90% of his emotions were expressed via anger. Story 29. Mom called me a son of a witch during an argument, and I agreed. Son of a... I was talking about your father. Me too. High five, freeze frame, dad crying in the corner, roll credits. Story 30. I was once sent to my room for poking your tongue out at your mother. I was licking salt off my lips. We'd just finished eating fish and chips for dinner. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.